Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly excited you're joining us today because, well, we're going to demystify some of the major unseen forces of the financial world. We're pulling back the curtain on the whole shebang, from these massive global giants managing literally unimaginable sums of money, all the way down to the very personal forces that dictate exactly what's left in your own wallet at the end of the month. It's going to be a wild ride, so let's just jump right in. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the invisible financial giants. Then, shadow networks in global markets. Third, the mechanics of Hawala. Fourth, the salary and EMI trap. And finally, the four wealth quadrants.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the invisible financial giants, and how BlackRock shapes the global market.
So, we're starting right at the absolute top of the global financial food chain to take an objective look at a firm that is, well, it's constantly surrounded by internet rumors. You've probably seen the WhatsApp forwards, right? Or those viral comments claiming BlackRock secretly owns Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, basically the whole world, operating like some sort of shadow government. But the reality? It's actually much more technical and honestly way more fascinating. Their empire wasn't built by a shadowy cabal, it was built on information, technology, and serious risk management.
Let's rewind a bit to see exactly how this all started. Back in 1986, there was this Wall Street rising star named Larry Fink. He made a massive bet on interest rates, and he guessed wrong. Actually, worse than wrong. It resulted in a catastrophic $100 million loss. He was fired. But that huge failure sparked a realization. Wall Street was basically just guessing at risk. So in 1980, he founded BlackRock in a single room with the goal to systematically measure financial risk. Fast forward to 2009, they signed a massive deal to acquire BGI and iShares. This move brought exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, to the everyday masses, essentially turning millions of ordinary folks into indirect BlackRock clients.
Now, that intense focus on risk management led to the creation of a software system called Aladdin. And to really wrap your head around BlackRock, you just have to look at this staggering number, $21 trillion. That is the amount of global assets currently managed by BlackRock's Aladdin software. It's almost hard to fathom.
And this brilliantly illustrates what Aladdin actually does. Think of it like a farmer who has hundreds of acres of different crops. It's literally impossible for one human to constantly calculate the exact risk of rain, pests, or market prices for every single field all at the same time. But imagine if they had a software that monitored the weather and the markets every single hour, warning the farmer exactly where the risk is. Well, that's Aladdin, but for the global financial markets. It doesn't legally own or control all these assets. Rather, it acts as the ultimate, real-time advisor for over 200 of the world's largest financial institutions.
Moving right along to Section 2, shadow networks and global markets, trading beyond traditional boundaries. Transitioning smoothly from those institutional giants down to everyday people, you might be wondering, how do individuals actually engage with these global fluctuations if they aren't Wall Street insiders? Well, one way is through CFDs, or contracts for difference, on platforms like BitGet. Simply put, this lets people trade on the price movement of an asset, say a foreign currency, without actually having to own the underlying physical asset itself. It's basically how people leverage modern tech to interact directly with global currency markets.
And you know, this global Forex market, it runs 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. The trading activity literally follows the sun across the globe. You start with the Asian session in Tokyo, which is relatively calm, great for observing trends. Then the European session wakes up, bringing highly dynamic movements usually driven by major economic reports. And finally, the US session kicks in, overlapping with Europe, and that's when you see absolute maximum market activity. It is just a continuous, globally connected financial loop.
All right, Section 3, the mechanics of Hawala, the 1,400-year-old invisible network.
So what happens when we step completely away from the digital grid? I mean entirely offline, into a 1,400-year-old network that operates totally off the books. So the crucial point is how this actually works without a physical bank. Imagine Ravi in Mumbai wants to send money to his mom in Lucknow. He gives cash and a secret code to a local Hawala operator. That operator literally just picks up the phone and calls his contact in Lucknow. Let's call him Anwar Bhai. Anwar Bhai then physically hands the cash to Ravi's mom when she gives him that secret code. The two operators just settle their balances later. No bank wire, no formal record, just pure trust and reputation.
And the sheer scale of this trust-based system, it'll absolutely shock you. Estimates suggest that up to $500 billion moves through this invisible, unwritten, running account system every single year. Let that sink in. It is a massive, parallel global economy. Now, we have to look at this objectively.
While Hawala is illegal in many jurisdictions and heavily scrutinized because, it can easily be used to hide black money or fund illicit activities, we still have to understand exactly why it persists. Just look at the comparison here. For an unbanked migrant worker trying to send money back home, traditional formal banking might take 3 to 5 days, charge 8 to 12% in fees, and require strict documentation they might not even have. Meanwhile, Hawala offers same-day transfer for just a 1 to 2% fee. It persists simply because it fills a glaring economic gap left by the formal system.
This brings us to Section 4, the salary and EMI trap. Where does your money really go?
Okay, we've talked about global trillions and shadow networks, but let's pivot sharply into your personal reality, your monthly paycheck. Just look at this number, 60%. This is the reality for so many working professionals today. Up to 60% of their monthly salary vanishes almost instantly to EMIs, equated monthly installments. A lot of folks are living with the illusion of wealth, driving nice cars, living in nice houses, but secretly, they're completely trapped in a financial rat race. So, where is that 60% actually going? It gets funneled right into formal loans for homes and autos, revolving credit like those maxed-out credit cards, and fixed recurring payments. Think internet, groceries, utility bills. Our traditional education system is absolutely great at teaching us how to be good, reliable employees, but it almost never teaches us how to actually manage this debt, or, more importantly, how to make our money work for us.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, the 4 wealth quadrants, escaping the rat race.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it shows the way out of that EMI trap we just discussed. We turn to a framework popularized by financial author Robert Kiyosaki, the ESBI quadrant, which reveals a fundamental psychological divide. On the left side, you've got the employee and the self-employed. Both of these rely entirely on active income. You are literally trading your limited 24 hours a day for money. If you stop working, the money stops. But on the right side, you have the business owner and the investor. Over here, you are building systems or using capital to generate passive income. The system works for you even when you sleep.
And here is the brutal, numerical truth of the global economy. 95% of the population is stuck on that left side, yet they control only 5% of the world's wealth. Conversely, just 5% of the population sits on the right side as business owners and investors, and they control a staggering 95% of the wealth. And this brings us full circle right back to BlackRock. The institutions and individuals utilizing tools like Aladdin, they sit firmly on the right side of this board. They are the investors making capital work for them on a global scale.
I absolutely love this metaphor. Staying on the left side of the quadrant, relying solely on active income, is basically like hauling buckets of water from the river every single day just to survive. Escaping to the right side means taking the time to actually build a pipeline. Sure, it's really hard work up front, but eventually the water just flows straight to your house while you're sleeping. True financial freedom absolutely requires a pipeline.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to keep this core philosophy in mind. Whether we're talking about the high-tech algorithmic risk models of BlackRock, the unwritten, invisible ledgers of the Hawala network, or the formal banking system holding your monthly salary, they're all at their core human systems. They're just social contracts based entirely on human behavior and trust. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to chew on today. We've seen how the massive macro economy works and how it eventually trickles all the way down into your own pockets. 5 years from now, if you change absolutely nothing, where will you be? And more importantly, which financial quadrant will you be in? It is time to take control of your financial literacy. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope it leaves you eager to dig in and learn even more.